How's it going, everybody? What we're going to do today is we are going to go over how to collect the national trends for immigrants generally, but also how to collect information for a specific group. So in order to do this, we will start opening Social Explorer, and then you'll see I'm just going to paste values into the spreadsheet that's sitting next door to Social Explorer. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to look for the Census 2000, because the census changed after Census 2000, so we will use the decennial census only for 1 year. But in any event, we'll click on decennial census, and then we will scroll down to Census 2000. And what you're going to see is we're going to perform this activity 3 times. Because we're getting national information, we don't have to change anything from the drop-down menu. We do have to highlight the United States and make sure that it populates this geography selection box, and then we'll proceed to the tables. I think it's a good idea to always get the total population as a check. It'll be something that we can use to verify that our information is coming through correctly, I should say. The next step, we're going to click on the search by keywords, and we're going to look for something like birth or immigration or nativity. I found that if you search for birth, what should happen is this field down below should populate, this box should populate, and we can select this first option, which is place of birth for the foreign-born population. We will add it to the table selections. And once we have both of these items listed, we'll click Show Results. And this page will have all of the information that we need. Specifically, we are going to copy the total population value. And then we will also, once we paste that in, what we will do is we will take the total number for the foreign-born population. In this case, it's a little over 31 million. We're going to copy that as well. And what you will see is that when you paste these values into the spreadsheet, the resulting percentages, and as you'll see also percent changes, will populate automatically. So in order to get the number of Australian immigrants, we will scroll all the way down. It's usually near the bottom of the list. And you will see here there are 60,965 Australian immigrants living in the United States in the year 2000. So we'll paste that in, and you'll see that we now have all the information for 1 year. Notice that the percent changes will still have that div 0 error message because it relies on information from 2010. So don't worry if you still see that error message. In the next step, we're going to get all of this same information for 2010. So in order to get that, we will click on the American Community Survey tab or link, and we're going to scroll down until we find the census, the American Community Survey release that ends in 2010. Again, these are the 5-year estimates, and then for the next series of data, we'll collect the data that ends in 2019. So first, we will click on the Begin Report, and then we'll highlight the United States, add the total population, keywords. I think you get the drill, but let's go through it anyways. We will add information, that table, to the results section, and you see here that we now have information from the ACS for the year 2010, and these are 5-year estimates, exactly what we are looking for. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to copy all of the same information. So we're going to get total pop, and then we will collect the number of foreign-born individuals generally, and finally we will scroll down to get the number of Australian immigrants. As you will see, the number increased by a pretty big share, even though the number is still pretty small. You'll see that Australians on average are less than, or right about 0.25% of the population. So here, again, we're going to click on 2019, keep the geographic level the same, click on population, and then select the place of birth. I'm kind of scrolling through this pretty quickly because we've done this now. This is the third time. You'll see that by 2019, the total population living in the United States was almost 325 million. And then we have also, according to the census release, a little over 44 million foreign-born individuals residing in the United States. And then you'll be surprised to see this in just a sec, that the number of Australian immigrants increased to almost 93,000. And while that number remains small, what you will see is that the actual rate of growth or rate of change is going to be, I was going to say about a third. And when we paste that in, you see that it's actually just about 32%. So I was off by a little bit, but you can see here that the actual overall rate of change for Australian immigrants was larger than it was for the entire country. Here, I'm being a little OCD about centering and how many decimal places to display. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about is there's one other kind of calculation that we can do that compares rates of change. So it's kind of like a comparative rate of change of rates of change. And so in order to do this, what we will do is we will copy the information from above and then compute a percent change. But we are going to use the percent changes as the values instead of the absolute percentages. And what we will see here is that when we calculate the rates of change using the foreign-born total as the denominator, that between 2000 and 2010, the percent growth for Australians was about half of what it was for immigrants generally. However, when we compare the rates of growth between 2010 and 2019, what we see is that the rate of increase experienced by Australian immigrants was nearly 2.5 times faster or steeper or more accelerated than it was for immigrants generally. And then finally, when we look at the comparisons over the entire period of time, what we see is that the rate of growth or the rate of change for Australian immigrants was about 40% higher or 40% faster than it was for immigrants more generally. Of course, this has to do with the relatively small size of the foreign-born Australian population in this country, but nevertheless, the Australian immigrant population in the United States grew at a faster rate. So that is the way in which you will collect this information. How you present it is a little bit of a different story. There are some examples on the figures and tables spreadsheet that I provided earlier in the semester. And clearly, or I hope it's clear, you can use formats and styles that you prefer. But I thought this would be a good way to get you started. You've probably spent a lot of time collecting the information, and now it's time to write about it. So I wanted to make this available. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'll be around working tomorrow. That's Tuesday the 26th. And I will be happy to schedule a Zoom call or a phone call, whatever works. Thanks a lot.